morning, everyone. Good to have you here. Welcome to Umbrella Saturdays. I'm Ayola Oguyomi, your host. And today we have someone very, very important, someone I hold very dearly. And that's why this is an Umbrella Saturday special. Her name is Babi Subair, and she has been a founder. She's also worked with a couple of multinationals. She's also a partner at PlanB Insurance. She's heavily focused on women. And then she's also someone with great skills. She's going to be taking us through something I find very interesting. And I'll just give you for some context. Myself and Madam Bambi has worked on a couple of projects together, just helping out with our farm. She had a farm, just trying to do certain designs, do stuff together, look through certain things that she's done. And I'll be telling you the truth. She's done amazingly well in the industry for herself. So I'll just let her have the mic to do further introduction about herself. Ms. Bambi Subai, can we have you up? You can also turn on your camera.
Excellent. Good morning. Can you all hear me? So I'm just trying to angle my camera so that you can actually see my face. I don't know what's happening here. Let me see if I move it.
I think it has to do with the lights.
Okay, there we go. Can you see me now?
Yes, great.
Excellent. Good morning. Maybe I should turn the lights on, actually. I was relying on daylight. I think that's fine now.
Yes, better now.
Excellent. Good morning. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ayola and Umbrella. Thank you for inviting me onto your platform this morning. Should I just start?
Well, maybe just give some context.
Okay, excellent. So I'm, what should I describe myself now? I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur with a background in finance. I started my professional life in the financial sector in the UK. I was an investment banker. I worked with Salomon Smith Barney in London. Doesn't exist anymore. It's now part of Citigroup. Then I relocated to Nigeria and worked with Citibank. So I have a financial background. I would say solid financial background. I went for my MBA, and it was during my MBA that I had an epiphany of supporting the real sector and supporting SMEs. So I came back to Nigeria, all gingered up, wanting to save the world. But I soon, and I joined the likes of, private equity firm called Actis. However, what I soon discovered was that my definition of SME and their definition of SME was slightly different. They were looking for $5 million transactions. And at the time, and even now, there are not that many SMEs who are doing $5 million transactions. I wanted to help real people. So I had to redefine my SME to actually MSMEs. And further along the line, I even, defined it even more to startup and early stage businesses. The reason being that I feel that they are the niche that require the most hand-holding and the most support. If businesses don't have the right support at the early stage, they're unlikely to scale. And that's why we find that, of the businesses, small businesses, the start, over 80% of them remain at the small level. They never scale. they sort of remain at the, the sort of one man employing three people type of level. And a lot of time there's a multiplicity of reasons why this is, from not having proper structures in the business, not having proper systems in the business, and just the founder not having the right mindset, the right knowledge, and the right experience to be able to sustain the business and grow the business. So for the last 15 years, this is the niche that I've been focused on, creating access to markets and creating access to financing for startup and early stage businesses. And it's the creating access to markets that led me to creating a farmers market, which is where Ayala and I now met. My other passion is agriculture. And I got into agriculture when I was appointed as a state government, what do we call ourselves? The state
Advisor.
Advisor, thank you. And agriculture was one of the things that we can, as political appointees, that we can do. And that's how I got into agriculture. So through the market, I was able to merge my two passions, which is agriculture, farming, as well as socioeconomic empowerment for women, creating access to markets for them at an affordable rate. And that's me in a nutshell, I believe.
You want to talk about things like Eco-Marché and some other programs that you've done. I find that very interesting.
Okay, so the market we run started as a farmer's market. And initially, it was just farmers bringing their produce to the market. Because as I said, I have a farm and I wanted to sell my produce. And I thought, what's the best way to sell my produce? I didn't like the terms and conditions the supermarkets gave to farmers. And having lived abroad and experienced farmers market, I thought this would be good. This would be a good platform through which to sell, which we're selling directly to the consumer. Now, bear in mind that I am focused on organic and natural farming. So I should stress that. And really, it is a niche. And so we decided that for people who appreciate the effort put into that organic farming, it was best to sell through a farmer's market. And we've been running now for 8 years. It started off as just the farmer's market where people just come. And then one day I noticed that all the vendors who were coming were women. And I thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity in a light bulb moment of merging my two passions, socioeconomic empowerment for women and agriculture. And so the farmers market is a not-for-profit initiative providing access to markets for startup, early stage, women-owned, women-led agribusinesses. And it's been pretty much just vendors along the agricultural food chain. However, a couple of years ago, we started getting other vendors doing, artisanal vendors in the sort of clothes, shoes, leather goods, who wanted to join. But one thing I know as a woman is that once you start adding clothes and food, we always migrate to clothes first. We will spend all our money on clothes before we buy food. So it was not a great idea to mix food and clothes. So we started a new brand called Eco-Marché. And Eco-Marché, marché is just a French word for market. We couldn't use Eco-Market because of branding, I think logo. We couldn't get the name, basically. We couldn't register the name. We had to seek approval from Lagos State to be able to use that. So we decided to use the French word marché. So it's just eco market. And the idea behind that is, going back to the traditional concept of the market being the center of community, the central point, the central meeting point within communities. And really, what we're doing with our platform is we've kept it small intentionally, because the idea is that we want to replicate this to other localities across Lagos State. It's to have, so each community should have its own farmers market concept, where people within that locality can have a place to come to showcase their products, and as well as, and to sell it as well within their communities. We're working on that at the moment. That's sort of phase 2 of this, and we're working with Lagos State to see how we can roll that out. So, watch this space. There might be a farmers market, a Kumashi, somewhere near you soon.
All right, that's great. Let's speak Plan B insurance. You've moved from
Okay.
to farming to working in one of the big financial institution in the UK or US, and now you're in Nigeria doing the Plan B. So let's have the Plan B.
Okay. So shall I share
Yes,
my screen
yes,
so that we
okay.
can just go into that? Um, and why is this not behaving? Okay. Share. And this is where your founders will now laugh at me because I am not tech savvy. Okay. No, what do I want to share? Share documents, Abby. Okay. um, no share screen. Oh dear, Ayola, I'm struggling.
All right, you want to send it me
Shall I send it to
yeah,
you?
send me the link? I'll put it up.
Okay. Sorry about this. Um, I don't want to waste your time faffing around trying to figure it out.
woman tó ní ọjà yẹn náà kí ni mo kọ sára pépà yẹn.
Gonna mute you. All right.
Okay, let me just send it to you whilst I'm talking.
Just speak through it, yeah, and then I'll pull up the slide.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just going to go to it and email it to you. So basically, as I said, I am involved, and I guess you could describe me as a serial entrepreneur, but really with the same focus. Apart from agriculture, I'm very much still doing what I've always, sort of remained within the same sector that I've always been in. Even though I'm doing the farming and the farmers market, I still run a consulting firm, and the consulting firm, provides advisory to small businesses. Sorry, I'm trying to send an email and talk at the same time, and clearly I'm being a man because I cannot multitask. If I were a proper woman, I should be able to multitask and talk as well as send an email. But unfortunately, that is not happening. So I'm going to pause to send the email to Ayola so that he can send it. Yes. Okay. And the network has been slow, so bear with me.
I guess it will come in.
Yes. It's still even sending. The network is slow. Oh dear. Okay. So it's still loading. So really, even though I'm in the farm, I mean, I sit on a think tank, which is convened by the IFC, which is the Women Funding Women Network. So it's a group of women funders who come together monthly to talk about the issues around, the funding gap in funding women in business. And I apologize to the men in the audience, but my focus, has been predominantly women focused, because I feel that women in business need more help than you men. Historically, men just are more aggressive, and they just, you guys, you just go for it. But we women struggle for many reasons. Sorry, this thing angle keeps moving, so you can't see my face. And I want you to see my face so you can see how serious I am. So excuse me a second, let me try it. I don't know if that helps with the lights on.
Yes, kind of.
Yes, much better. Okay. So I am still very much involved in advisory. And so one of the things we talk about in this group, it's a loose group of women who come together, and they're all funders, and they all talk about the fact that they're sitting on all these funds.
Seems like there's a network issue. I don't know if it's from my end. But please, let's give her some time. She'll be back in.
And thank you very much. In essence, you're all in the ditch. And so there's a gap between where the funders are and where the founders are. And none of the funders want to come down to help the founders because it's not profitable to do so. So they wait for you to clean yourself up, get your act together, and position yourself to to receive their funds. So I felt that what we needed was actually a platform whereby we can brush these founders up. And that is one of the things I've tried to do on my farmers market platform. So we've run a sort of a pseudo accelerator program where we encourage our vendors, to ensure they register their businesses, to open a business account, to be accountable, to practice fiduciary discipline, to put structures in place in their businesses. Because the reality is there are funds out there. And I was a credit risk manager at Citibank for 5 years. Accessing credit in the bank is a box ticking exercise. It's not complicated. But what we found, in particular with women, is that 99% of women don't even scale the basic section of box ticking. Is your business registered? Do you have audited accounts? Do you have this? They don't even get past that stage to the point where we're beginning to now analyze their documentation because they don't have the proper documentation. So I feel that, what founders really need is this sort of hand-holding to help them put the structures in place because the funds are out there. I mean, wouldn't you say so, Ayola? The funds are there.
Yes, the funds are there.
Yes.
Just position it rightly for it. All right. Do you want to check?
So I'm sending it to you now.
All right, great.
The network it was hanging all this while. I think maybe let me send it to you by WhatsApp because
All right, that's faster.
That seems to be, yes. It doesn't seem to be, email doesn't seem to be wanting to work. Okay, sent to you.
All right, thank you. Got in.
So Plan B may seem like it's from left field, but it isn't, because I'm all about, I'm involved in financial advisory and providing solutions to founders, either through creating access to finance or access to markets. Plan B is just a financial tool. So it really fits in. So it's not, after everything I said, so don't think it's just coming from left field. No, it isn't. It's actually all part of, trying to get more women financially included. And really, we started with insurance because insurance is when we looked at this, the quantum of the challenges facing founders or especially female founders, we found that insurance was a low-hanging fruit, because the truth is only 0.3% of women in Nigeria of the insurable age have insurance. Now, that is a very low percentage. The average, percentage rate is about 11%. Generally, globally, women don't have, are sort of less, the uptake is less with women than with men. But in Nigeria, it's particularly low. The global average is about 13%. So we're way, 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 way below the average. We can't see anything yet.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now I can sort of stop waffling. And so if you just go down to the slides, please. Okay, so we're here. So as I was saying, most people don't think about insurance until it's too late. Usually it's when there's been an accident or an illness or a disaster that either wipes them out or really and what you find is it's because but it is also good to be practical, because the same God that we're having faith for has said that we should be wise and not foolish. And he has given the wisdom for insurance to some people. And so we need to
So sorry, everyone. I think my net
it's fine.
is very hectic. But I'm
No worries, no worries. We can just scroll down. We can scroll down so that we get to the heart of, Plan B. So yes. So why is insurance critical for founders and for businesses in particular? Why are we advocating that you should adopt insurance early on? I mean, ILA will, can confirm this. One of the reasons is sometimes investors will not put their funds in your business if you don't have proper insurance.
Yeah.
Like, if you've come across that in your experience dealing with you're protecting against unpredictable risks. such as legal and financial. I know quite a number of you founders are in the tech space, so you're protecting against cyber attack. Many of you are using gadgets, laptops, phones, etc. You can protect those because really those are your biggest assets, your laptop and your phone, especially when you're in the tech space. So you can protect those. Complying with legal and business requirements. As I said, clients and investors require insurance before doing business or providing you with funding. You can safeguarding your business assets and operations. Again, this one is key for you founders who are in the tech space because you can protect your intellectual property. You can attract resource as you scale your business and you're bringing on board talent. Having insurance can help you attract better quality talent in the market. If you're offering life insurance, if you're offering health insurance, it can help you get better talent in the market. And also it can help you attract investors, as I've said before. Peace of mind to focus on growth. Nothing beats this. The anxiety, the fear of something happening. There's no way, in a place of fear, creativity can reality. If you're constantly anxious and worried about, oh, what if something happens to this? What if something happens to that? The creativity can't flow. It will stunt your growth. And then, of course, experience drives insurance adoption. And I said here, NSARS. I think there's a podcast of business by NSARS who didn't have insurance. In fact, I wish I'd gotten that video and just played it. I would not need to talk again. I would have just played that video and that would have been the end of the presentation. But I thought that would have been the lazy way out. But yes, a majority of the shops that were affected during the NSARS did not have insurance and they were wiped out. Many of them have not been able, I think Lagos State gave them some money, but not enough to start the business again. So, what we found is that men have more, there are more men who take insurance than there are women. And that, again, there are many reasons for this. There's low coverage of insurance for women because one, low awareness and education. So higher education levels correlate with increased insurance uptake. Many of us live in the city, but outside of major cities, the boy child is still the preferred child to be educated. So you still find that fewer women education and awareness is a major challenge where a lot of women don't know about insurance, don't understand insurance, and so therefore they're not even aware of insurance or that they need insurance. Then, cultural and religious barriers. I've mentioned this before. Gender roles and societal expectations, religion, faithing it, faithing everything rather than getting proper structures in your business. Affordability is a challenge. Many women think it's expensive. They wouldn't be able to afford the premiums. Lack of tailored products. It's confusing. There's so many insurance packages, insurance for health, insurance for car, insurance, too much. Anything that's too complicated for us women, we can't cope, which is why a lot of women don't even apply for loans because the application form is longer than one page. I'm sure people are not aware of that. It's actually a statistic. The reason why women don't apply. I think it's number 3 on the list of reasons. The reason why women don't apply for loans is because the application form is too long. Yes, true. Ask all the women. We can run a poll here now of all the women on this call. How many of them will fill a form that is longer than 1 page? Please, put your responses. Any form that is longer than 1 page, women are not going to fill it. So yes, there's trust issues, fearful that if they do pay these premiums and they do then have, to make a claim, that the insurance companies will not pay. So there is that fear. And it's a real fear, but everything is about mitigating all these risks. And then women tend to prefer the informal financial mechanism, the esusu and things like that, ajo, all those sorts of things, rather than, sort of the more formal savings, opening bank savings account and saving your money in there.
Babi, let me jump in here, right?
Okay, please do.
I hear a lot of those conversations around gaps. That's how my mind is working. I'm seeing gaps here, and I'm sure there are founders on this call saying, "Oh, there are opportunities here for me, whether building a fintech product or even building a health tech product or an education tech product, right? I'm seeing opportunities here, right? Because the way we build products as founders, right, we build not for specific, we build for generic, right? In the sense that we're just targeting both genders, right? But I hear a lot of things that you say now as spaces here. I don't know if there are founders in the group or on the call who also see something similar, right? Maybe some founders building for just the female community on this call, because usually I know that when it comes to that, when it comes to ladies, there are some founders that are doing like postpartum depression, doing specific like specializations, looking at specializations for women. How did you come across all these gaps? Is it because you're female?
That has something to do with it, but there's also an organization called Athena who does an annual report on financial inclusion, enhancing financial inclusion in Nigeria. And they send out an annual report, which I subscribe to, and they basically run a research by sending questionnaires to all the banks and all the insurance companies, and then they gather and then analyze that data. So I would love to say that it's just my brilliance, but no, I use the Athena report, and all this data and statistics is in there. And part of what Athena is doing is to highlight these gaps. And then it's for founders such as us, such as, PlanB, such as the other founders on this call, to look for the gaps, because that's all we've done. We've identified a gap, and we've come up with a solution to meet that gap. We've identified that less than 0.3% of women in Nigeria of insurable age are buying insurance. That's a huge gap. Compared to men, which is, the uptake is about 30%. Humongous gap. So that's an opportunity. So once you identify this gap, you then think, okay, what are the causes? And these are some of the causes. And that's why we now, if you go on to the next slide, please. We've now come up with a solution, very simple solution that has taken into cognizance all those points highlighted in the previous slide. What are the challenges that women face with insurance? Affordability, complexity, trust. We've addressed each one of them. Trust, we partnered with Leadway Assurance. the premier leading composite insurance company in Nigeria. When you're looking at which insurance company to buy a product from, you look at those who have the capital base, so that they're properly capitalized. Because you're going to make a claim, then the insurance company must have money. So you need to be looking at their capital base to make sure that they're properly capitalized. And if there's going to be a claim, you can make a claim. Now, if you go to Leadway and you check out their figures, they're by far the leading insurance company. Then you have the AXA Mansard, etc. But yes, and that's why we partnered with Leadway. The second thing, affordability. We worked very hard. In fact, it took us 6 months to be able to get the pricing right. And how did I even come up with the pricing? I looked at my market, my women on my platform, and I said, what can they comfortably afford to pay for as a premium on a monthly basis? I understand, like I said, I've been running this for 8 years. So I have the data. I know what they can comfortably afford to pay. And I put that figure in, and Leadway's actuaries have to now work to that figure. And it took us 6 months. A lot of fighting, a lot of pushback, but I said, no, this is the figure. I don't know how you're going to do it, but this is the figure we want on a monthly basis. Then the other thing was the complexity. So we've simplified it. So rather than having one policy for auto, that car, one policy for life, one policy for health, another policy, too many policies, we've bundled all the policies into one. So it's a pre-priced, bundled product at an affordable rate. So what you're finding is that if we go on to the next slide, so these are the different packages we have. And if you zoom in onto, let's just take the quarterly, just zoom in so that we can see the quarterly premium and annual premium.
That'll be kind of hard, but yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, you can't zoom in on your end.
That would be hard.
Oh, right. Okay. So I'll just talk through it. So what we're finding, so we have 3 different product offerings. And because we have looked at, sorry for the men on the call, it's for women. But actually, if you click on the website to register to buy a plan, we've taken men into consideration. So when you go there, they ask if you're male or female. So yes, we're marketing it and promoting it as an insurance for women, but you men can also take advantage of this very affordable insurance product. So what we've done is that for as little as 12,000 naira per month, you can insure your car, your burglaries, sort of personal assets, life insurance, health insurance, personal accident, all for 12,000 naira a month. Unfortunately, because of the health insurance, we can't take monthly premiums. So another fight was we made them accept quarterly premiums. So you don't even have to pay everything upfront. So it's 12,000 a month for 3 months. So like 24,000 every quarter. For 24,000 naira every quarter, you can. Or my maths is not going well, actually. Sorry. 12 times 3 is 36. Sorry. You can have all this insurance and you get one single policy. Not multiple policies, not multiple documentation, nothing. And if you go on the website to buy a plan, it's one page because we know women don't like to fill. So we've really simplified the process. We've made it transparent. We've unbundled the complexity and we've made it affordable. We've addressed every single area that women have said is a reason why they don't buy insurance. And so we have an SME package, we have a corporate package, and the difference between the packages is basically a woman who's working, her company probably has health insurance for them, and in some cases, life insurance. So we felt she's not going to need health insurance or life insurance. So that, the corporate package is slightly different. And then we find that generally there are just some women who don't fit into corporate or into SME. So we've just called it Premier. And in the Premier, there's education. Some people are worried about school fees. What happens if, as a founder, I'm struggling, I can't pay school fees? If you take out this package, school fees is covered. There's an education aspect to it. Now, there are three categories, as you can see. It depends on the size of your pocket. So if you want Bloom, that's the lowest package. The lowest meaning that the coverage is lower. So if you look at the SME now, for health insurance, okay, it says as in policy. So for personal accident, you can get up to 1 million.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So for personal accidents, you can get up to what you can insure yourself up to 1 million. But if you want to insure for more, for example, the 5 million, then you can choose that. But of course, the higher the coverage, the higher the premium you have to pay. But even at the higher premiums, it is still lower and more affordable than a single policy. And in fact, what we're doing now is we're challenging corporates, the banks, the telcos, and we're saying to them that you can reduce your staff benefit by 50% by adopting PlanB. Because it is truly, Leadway has done this because everyone wants to support women. And there's a drive to get more women financially included. Because what, in essence, we're doing is that for our economy to maximize its potential, we need to have more women participating economically. And that's why you'll find that there's this drive. Everything is gender equality, gender equity, because half of our population are not pulling their economic weight for various reasons. I mean, they need us now. Before, they used to tell us that we should stay in, where was it? In the bedroom, in the other room. And now that the men have, driven this ship to where it is now, all of a sudden they want us out of the other room to come and help them drive the economy in the right direction. But that is why there is this drive and this focus on gender, on youth empowerment. With the youth, Ayola and I were discussing this, and I was saying to him that, look, there has to be a drive for youth empowerment, because on average, we have about over 1 million graduates from Nigerian universities every year. And there are only 200,000 jobs being created by the private sector. So every year, we're getting a gap of about 800,000 students who can't get jobs and will never be able to get jobs. So the only opportunities for them is entrepreneurship. It's platforms like Umbrella, providing an opportunity where people with ideas can come to have their ideas, amplified, and then meet investors who, put money behind the ideas. So entrepreneurship is a huge part of our economic development, because the private sector just isn't able to provide enough jobs
for everybody.
a huge, yes, exactly. So I'll stop there because I know it's supposed to be Q&A, and I hope if people have any questions, then I'm happy to take the questions.
Okay, great. Bambi, I'll be very honest to you. You've put my mind into thinking, right? A lot of thought process just kept moving, for me. And I'm sure a lot of founders who are building are saying, oh, wow, I can actually just create a product or, fine-tune my roadmap to capture this market. I will let any of the founders who have questions go, but I have a very deeper question to ask you, Bambi. A very, very deep question to ask you. And my first question is, in Africa, where access to capital is already limited, right? How can early stage startup justify spending on insurance, instead of just channeling every naira to growth? I'm sure there are founders on this call saying, why do we need insurance?
Well, as I said at the beginning, insurance is it's a security. If you've gathered all your money together and you've put it into developing your product or your service, and that's all you have, what if something happens to that product or service? Where does that leave you?
That's a very big question.
Where does that leave you? Isn't it better to pay 5,000 naira and out of however much you're paying, 5,000 naira, not 1 million, not 2 million, 5,000 naira. And for that small amount, you're able to protect everything that you're building. You're able to have peace of mind. I don't know. I think the founders can answer.
So Bambi, this also stems from the fact that you have to have made a lot of money for you to start to insure properties, laptops, chairs, and do all that, right? At the stage where you are very early stage, you're not even thinking about insuring yourself. That's the pattern that we see. And I know that was the conversation we had, before we decided to do the special, right? And me personally, right? I probably didn't even think insurance until I had an incident in April. And I'm like, you know what? I need to insure my life. I need to do life insurance just so that I'm good. My family is good, just in case anything happens. But I don't think that a lot of people see it that way. We've seen startup also go down. What's the most common but overlooked risks that can kill African startups, especially those building tech, mobility, health, informal markets, and how can insurance protect them from all these, risks that you see from where you sit?
Well, from where I sit, I mean, one of the biggest risks is what I mentioned, which is intellectual property, especially in your space, in the tech space. And insurance can protect that.
Really?
It can protect your idea. Yes. It can protect your idea because it's an asset.
Interesting.
And they're offering the insurance now. I mean, it wasn't in our market before, but now it's available in the market. And that's my understanding of your tech space. I mean, other founders can say that other things are more important to them. But the other things that you use, I mean, I think it's the idea. And then, of course, the physical assets that you have, your laptop, your phone, all these things. If you're developing, all these things can also be insured. You lose your laptop, someone steals it, what do you do? That's your, everything you have is on that laptop. You need to protect it. So, yes, you don't need a lot of money. you don't need to have made, because that was your first comment, that you need to have made a lot of money. I disagree. You don't need to have made a lot of money. I mean, it's prudent that from the onset you protect what you have, so that if anything happens, even that little that you have at that early stage, there's an opportunity to recoup it and to get it, and to get it back. So you're not having to start afresh. I mean, for me, I don't know. It's, I can't preach it enough that I would rather take a small amount of money to protect what I have. And maybe it means that I have to, if I've set some objectives, it may take me a bit longer to achieve those objectives. But I know that I will achieve those objectives, but at least what I have is secure. And you can, if anything happens, you can claim on it. There's something we called, at the founder stage, at the early stage, founders are pretty much the only people in the business. So there's an insurance called key man risk, which means that if anything happens to you as the founder, then there's insurance that covers the business. If you're ill, you can't work on your app, you can't work, there's key man insurance that covers that eventuality. And I think for founders in particular, they need to consider this more for the tech fund. They need to consider this more than maybe other founders who are selling products or selling goods, selling food, selling all these things. So I would say that your audience needs it more than any other audience, actually. But everybody needs it. Everybody needs insurance.
Okay, so let me open the floor to founders who have questions. The normal practice would be that they raise their hands and then we just take questions. So I don't know if there are any hands up from the audience. Anyone wants to speak? You can just raise your hand and go first. But while that is coming up, Bambi, I have another question for you. I know that many founders associate insurance with a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of delays, a lot of unclear claims processes. How is the insurance sector evolving to serve, fast-paced, digital-first African founders? Because founders are agile, we are fast-paced, we're, on the move, right? And I want to do an insurance now. You tell me I have to fill certain forms or I have to look through X or Y, read the fine print. The fine print alone is like two pages on it.
Yeah. You've just done your life insurance. You were telling me you've just done life insurance, and yes, it can be complex. And that's what we've done with PlanB. We've simplified the complexity. As I said, it's only one page form and it's all online, seamless. You don't have to talk to anybody. You just go onto our website, www.planbinsurance.org. You find our products, click on it, read through the products, decide which product you want, click on it. It says get a quote. You get a quote. Everything seamless. And you get your pricing. It takes you straight to Paystack. You make your payment for your premium. Within 24 hours, you get your welcome letter and you get your policy. Seamless. You don't have to talk to anyone. So to answer your question, if we've been able to do this because the insurance market has moved on, they've advanced, they've grown, they've evolved. It's now, they've realized that they needed to evolve to play in the retail market. Insurance companies were focused on B2B. But the B2B is now maxed out. So they're venturing into the retail market. And they realized that they cannot have the same marketing approach that they had with B2B with B2C. So they've had to deploy technology. So that everyone now has a sort of a seamless platform where you can just go online, register, pay, and you get your your policy by email. And when it's time for renewal, email is sent to you. You don't have to deal with anybody. It's seamless and simple. So all that complexity, reading pages. Well, with PlanB, you don't have to. But if you're opting for other insurance, direct insurance, then yes, you would have to read the fine print. You would have to fill out, 5 pages of application form. It still exists, but it's online now. So those 5 pages are online and all the things are online. But with us, you don't have to do that.
Okay. I don't know if there are like real life examples where insurance has saved like African startup from collapse, especially one that would have, that wouldn't have survived if they didn't without having insurance. I don't know if you have any, use case, but if there are no real use cases, because again, like if we didn't have this conversation around insurance and startups and founders getting insurance and the rest of it, I'm not sure that I would have even thought about, insurance for startups. And that's why this is a very special edition for me, because I know a lot of startup founders are like blown out with the conversations we're having today. People will usually think of insurance from, especially if you've worked before, you probably think of your employer doing insurance for the car.
Exactly.
You have your own car, you're probably doing insurance for your car. If you build your own house, yeah, you're doing insurance as well. Some people don't even know the difference between third party, first party insurance, and all other terminologies. In Nigeria, a use case, case in point, would be that people just do insurance, third party insurance, just because they want to go past the regulators. The regulator says you need to have insurance for your car, and then you just think, what, let me just do third party. Even on very expensive cars,
the question is, why are the regulators insisting you should have insurance? Why are they mandating it now, and the state governments are enforcing it? It's because of all the accidents. All the accidents, the fatality, and people are having to pay. So it's to protect people. So they're forcing people to protect themselves. Because they've seen the data of fatality and what happens. When people have accidents and they don't have insurance, they just walk away from the car because there's no point. Where do you start? But if you have insurance, then at least they'll give you back something depending on the sort of insurance you have. You're covered.
So the myth most times is that the insurance company would ask you to do certain, incident claims, right? So, for instance, let's assume that in the line of course, you're going home, your laptop is insured, but something happens, maybe theft or burglary happens, and then your laptop is gone. You will have to snap the laptop that has gone. You'd have to tell them the serial number of the laptop that has gone. You have to tell them the model of the laptop, show them that you actually use the laptop. What are the myths and misconception about business insurance that you've encountered frequently among maybe founders? I know the market for you is usually SMEs and MSMEs.
Yeah.
But what are the myths and misconceptions that you might want to share with us, and how do we unlearn some of these things? Because insurance is kind of complex.
I mean, insurance is, and that's why we've simplified it. Now, I don't know about other people, but when you work in a corporate organization, a big organization, when you start and you're assigned a laptop or a phone, company laptop, company phone, whatever, there's usually a serial number. for each gadget. Let me call it that. And the reason for that is for insurance. Because the corporates know that if there's ever anything that happens to that system and they want to make a claim on it, these are the questions they're going to ask. So at the point where you decide that I want to insure the assets that I have as a founder, then at that point, you need to have documentation of the assets. You need to have, the serial number of the laptop. So you have it and you keep it somewhere. It's like your bank account details, knowing where to keep your bank account details, so that and if anything happens, they're going to do a check. Okay, what was the name? What was you can't, and the reason for that is insurance companies need to protect themselves. If you have not told us that this is the asset that you are insuring, how do we know that you're not making a claim for another asset? So, for example, your brother's laptop gets stolen. And you have insurance, so you decide to help your brother out. It's not your laptop, but the insurance is for you. So you make a claim and you say, oh, my laptop got stolen. Which laptop? The neighbor's laptop? Your uncle's laptop? The person in the village's laptop? I mean, which laptop? So you now have to give them the details. And they will now check that, okay, the details that you're giving matches the details that we have. And not a problem. They'll give you that money. But bear in mind that if you collect a claim for your brother for his laptop, to replace his laptop, when your own laptop actually now gets stolen or anything happens to it, you can't claim again with the same. You would have had to say to them that you've gotten a new laptop and submitted that serial number to them. So really, it is to mitigate against fraud.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's to mitigate against fraudulent customers, because there will be, fraudulent customers. And we've seen a case where somebody needed money, and so therefore, when it was raining, left the window open so that the rain will fall on I think a laptop or something, a damaged laptop, so that they could then make a claim to get some money. So it is just due diligence. The insurance company owes a duty of care to ensure that a claim is legitimate. And that's all it is. And people shouldn't unfortunately, people look at it from a negative perspective that, it's because insurance companies don't want to pay. No, in law, it's called duty of care. It's the same way when you have a savings account in a bank, and banks lend money to businesses using the money you've put in savings. I'm sure everybody knows that. Now, imagine that you now go to withdraw your money from savings and the bank says, oh, sorry, there's no money to give you because we lent the money to Umbrella, and well, Umbrella has run away with
our money.
The bank owes a duty of care to ensure that they protect that money so that Umbrella cannot run away with it. And that's why there's so much documentation and so, and you asked the question, do I have an example of where insurance has, I don't have a specific example. However, I use the example of the shops in Lekki on Admiralty that were damaged during NSAR. Many of them have not been able to come back. If you drive down Admiralty now, many of them were not able to come back after the NSARS, even after Lagos State gave them money, because they just didn't have insurance.
Okay, we have a hands up. Quata, I hope I pronounced that well. Alade Idris. Do you just mute yourself and just ask the question?
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is
Hello,
Kauthar.
Hi, Kauthar. How are you?
Yes, I'm very much. So, I've been following the conversation, and I actually have, I wouldn't say a question, but I think I have another perspective to it. So, I actually operate in the food and beverage space.
Okay.
And, you know, usually, yes, as a growing company, we're trying to raise funds. And you know that one of the things you put in your pitch deck for you to really attract investors is that you're going to be insuring those assets you want to acquire. So invariably, yes, if you actually get the fund, you know you're going to invest in that because it's part of the things you want to do. But going forward, it's not because of the fact that you love the insurance, but you have to insure it because so you had to insure it because of the funding you want to get from the investor.
But is that not a wrong perspective, Kata?
Completely. I wanted her to finish.
Finish, yeah.
It's not you know, the idea is the myth around insurances. Oh, I've been paying premium for years and there's no accident, so my money is just there in a pool.
And they're investing my money.
So they are investment. So if I have an investor that wants to now put in a fund, and one of the things that can make that person feel like, oh, I have a structured plan for anything is because I have an insurance for those assets that I can get a win-win. But because you mentioned that, okay, yes, what you're now looking at PlanB is, okay, having a different insurance. Okay, so take for instance under maybe the business or the premium where you talked about education. Yeah. So I'm looking at, okay, even if I didn't have any issue with my assets. Okay, eventually maybe there's an issue with my health. Okay, I know we know women, we have one health issues or the other. Or maybe because I needed to support our Oga in the house in terms of education. Okay, so I know that yes, this makes sense in actually going ahead with this kind of insurance program. So I think that the conversation now should be letting women really understand that from their own perspective, beyond, okay, yeah, you're just doing the insurance or you're paying the premium, it's actually more of an advantage to you. You know, or we are in the digital space now. I mean, AI space, making you realize that, oh, do you know that this is what can actually happen if this does not happen? So I am talking from my own. Yes, I'm insuring my asset because I have to insure it. But am I really insuring it because I needed to insure it? I just insure it because I need to do it. Not because of the fact that, or because I know that by the time I apply for another grant and they see that there's insurance in my financial statement, they're like, okay, yeah, this person is a well-structured person. So I think that like what you're doing in PlanB now makes more sense. Helps a lot of women feel, okay, yes, I really need this thing beyond just my asset. So I think the conversation will now be more of from the problem solving aspect, from why we need it as a woman. Thank you.
Okay, so from the women perspective, which is great.
Yes, she is. And I think you're right, because since we've been marketing PlanB, the women, over 90% of the inquiries we've had has been about health. Health followed by life insurance, then followed by aged parents. My parents are getting old. How, what sort of insurance can we have for them? And then health, a lot about health. So you are right that more than the businesses, the women themselves are concerned about themselves. And I think that's great, because it's a realization that if I'm not well, then my business cannot be well.
But Bambi, let's balance the gender, because it's the same for the man as well, right? If the guy is not well, then business cannot do well.
Definitely.
All right. I have another question though. What kind of insurance should be considered non-negotiable for startup across different stages? You know, whether you're bootstrapping or you're at series, what kind of insurance should be considered non-negotiable? Like as a founder, you should have it. Sorry for putting you on the spot,
Tough
but
one.
yeah, that's
a tough one. That's a tough one. Ooh, that's a tough one. What? Ooh.
Yeah, because why I'm asking this question is I'm sure there are founders like myself on the call, right? When I got a laptop for my co-founder, I wasn't thinking insuring it. I needed him to do the job, right? When I get a laptop for my staff, I'm not thinking about them. I'm being honest. Just then,
So I would
mind
say health insurance.
health insurance.
Health insurance that encompasses sort of personal accident, key man risk as well, is what I would say is key. Because, and the reason is, it's interesting that we made that statement, if you're not well, then your business cannot be well. So really, it's, if you, as a founder, if you're not well, then that's it. There's no business. So I would say health first, if you want to just narrow it down to one. However, with Plan B, you don't have to choose. For the same price as you would get one single health insurance policy, you can get health, life, personal injury, auto, and everything else for the same price. So why choose when you can have it all?
I see what you do there. I see what you do there. I see what you do there. I think that what you've also done is to address my next question, which is insurance is often seen as expensive, or out of reach for small startups, right? And I could have asked of if there were like more flexible, founder-friendly insurance, or models or micro insurance options that that are built for African startup in mind. I know some of the package you showed earlier where you were presenting your slide were for like SMEs, corporate, and then Premier, right? Just in case you don't fall into any of those categories. But are they like, are insurance guys thinking startup insurance? Like, I don't know if there's a word like that, right? Startup insurance. From the day the guy decides to start up, his IP, his co-founders are insured, his next level guys are insured. I don't know if there are things like that.
Well, you can always call any bundled product any name. So we could have, instead of calling it SME, we could have called it startup. It's still the same policies that you would still bundle under those under a startup. You would still need health, you still need life. You may not need auto, but we have to add auto in the Nigerian context because it's mandatory by it's mandatory by government. So auto has to be there, and that's why you see auto in every single bundle. But yes, I think even the SME, we can call it a startup package.
Okay.
You need different types of insurance for different stages of growth, which is why I'm saying the SME package could be considered as a starter package, because as you grow, as you scale, you would need different types. So you can't have a one size fits all from the beginning, because you're saying, for each stage, no. So as you grow, as you evolve, you need different types of insurance. As your business scales, you need different coverage. So let's say you series 1 fundraising and you raise $1 million. You can't have coverage of 1 million naira insurance. for a business that has just been able to raise $1 million. So as you grow and scale, then you need to, adopt your insurance policy accordingly. Because in that case, what it is you're underinsured. And if there's any eventuality, then the insurance you have will not cover where you're currently at. I hope
that's great. So I don't know if there are other questions in the room. So let's do this, Bambi. In the early stage, right? A single accident, lawsuits, or stolen asset can kill a startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't more African founders treat risk management as an essential fundraising?
Ooh, okay.
Or treat risk management as essential as fundraising. Every founder wants to raise funds, but risk management is not taken in the same light as fundraising.
Risk management is an aspect of fundraising, because one of the things you have to show in your pitch is usually that you have fully dimensioned the risks in the business and that you have mitigations for those risks. So it is not stressed upon, but it needs to be part of the package. And that has been my experience with fundraising. You need to clearly, and I think it's also part of most business plans, you need to have highlighted there's a section on risks, because funders want to know that you fully understand your business end to end, and that you've been able to fully dimension the risks along your value chain, and that you provide mitigations for those risks. Now, there's always some risks that you cannot fully mitigate, and that's fine, and we accept those. But yes, it's not stressed. Should it be stressed? Perhaps, but I don't think in my opinion, I don't think it needs to be more stressed than it is, because you need to display that you thought about it and that it's a possibility, and you have a mitigation in place for such eventualities.
Okay, so as startup scale, right? As the scale up the ladder, we all plan for growth, right? But as we scale up the ladder, right? Sorry, let me just admit this person. The risk compounds.
Yes.
How does insurance become more critical or not less, once a business starts growing?
Oh, very much so, because you have more to lose, really. At every stage, you have a lot to lose, at every stage. And insurance is as important for a startup as it is for established business. As you said, as you scale and you grow, there's more investment in the business, there's more at stake. But it's no more important than when you were a startup and you were small and it was just you. Insurance is critical at any stage. It's just that the type of insurance and the complexity, or let me not use the word complexity, the dynamic of the insurance changes. It's not that it's important when you're big or when it's important. Anyone doing this, it's important.
Okay.
So the dynamic of it changes.
Let me hold you to the dynamics of it, right? The dynamics of startups are hiring remote team, working remotely, working hybrid, storing customers' data, or moving physical goods. What are the visible risks that only insurance can, mitigate effectively? What are those risks that insurance alone can mitigate effectively?
Well, in the scenario that you've just painted, I think it's protection of your intellectual property, because you're saying everybody's working remotely. Then protection of the physical assets. If everyone's working remotely, that means they're working on laptops or phones. So you need to protect those as well. You also have to be aware if they're in different jurisdictions,
The insurance law varies as well.
exactly. So if you're working remotely in different countries, then you can't, it's probably easier and cheaper for them to get insurance locally than for you to try to get insurance. Let's say you're here based in Nigeria and you want to get insurance for someone who's in New York. It's more expensive, more so because of the exchange rate. And that's why, the health part of PlanB, we don't have for the, for the stuff like the premium end, we don't have international health cover in there because of exchange rate. We can't fix it because it's a pre-priced bundle, which means the price is fixed. If we were to include that, it would make the price fluctuate because it would, we have to take into considering FX. So that's the only part that is missing. If our currency was stable, evacuation and things would have been part of the health package.
Okay.
So yes, so
I want us to not think about, because again, I've heard a lot of, things around what we've discussed, and it seems like insurance is like a safe net, right? It's that safe net. But I want us to talk about insurance more as a growth enabler, right? For founders, especially when you're talking to investors or customers or regulators, can you just run us through how that can be a positioning for founders, especially when you say, I have insurance. I don't want us thinking about insurance as safe net, but I want us to think about it as a growth enabler. When you're speaking to someone, you're saying, oh, we have insurance. We have insured this. We have this insured. We have the goods insured from Kaduna to Kano, if you are doing physical goods, and the rest of it.
I mean, if you look at, I said it in the, when I was presenting, that investors are, even regulators, if you tell them that you have insurance, it shows that you're a serious business person. It immediately puts you on a different pedestal, that this person is a serious business person, understands the systems and processes and structures of running and sustaining a business. It just, even the way you were saying it, you could that, oh, I have insurance. You were oozing confidence. And and that in itself is reassuring to anybody who wants to do business with you, that yes, I want to do business with you because clearly you know what you're doing. And you're not, it's also sort of risk averse, stability, all positive perception is created by just talking and saying, oh, I have insurance, or I have health insurance on my staff. It just puts you on a completely different pedestal.
Interesting. Okay, let's link insurance back to resilience, which is the topic for today, right? Going from risks to resilience, right? And most times when people hear resilience, it sounds like bouncing back. It sounds like staying in the game. How does insurance turn unpredictable, shocks into manageable detours? How does insurance balance that entire mix? Because the topic is from risks to resilience, and we want to tie it back to reality for the founders.
Yeah. So what insurance does, which we've touched on it, but as you said, that's sort of tied into the
Topic.
theme for the topic, is what insurance does in essence is it's a safety guard, which means that if anything happens as you're building, you're not going back to ground zero each time. So if you look at it as a curve, unfortunately, I like to draw, but I can't draw on here. If you look at it as a chart, you've got your y-axis and your x-axis. And the business life cycle, it's a curve that goes up like that. If you start at zero and you have, let's say, as a startup of founders in your audience, they take up insurance at ground zero. As they're building and going up the scale, something happens. Without insurance, you go back to ground zero. With insurance, it's a setback, but you're not back at ground zero because you're able to claim some money to get you going again. And as you're going up, of course, you're paying your premiums, you renew your insurance. If anything else happens again, it might be a setback, but you're not going to ground zero. You're still up the ladder, and you just keep going. And that is the resilience we're talking about. Is that ability to keep going.
Moving.
Because if you have to go back to ground zero, many people are not able to get that drive, energy, that they had when they did it the first time. Ideas die then because they can't do it. It takes a lot. As founders, we're all founders. It takes a lot for us to get off the ground. And if you now go and there's a disaster and you have to go back to the beginning, some of us are not able to find that depth required to start again. So insurance provides you with the resilience to keep able to keep going, to keep on keeping on.
She said to keep on keeping on. All right, great. I want to open the floor to the audience. I know a couple of people might have questions now. Let's have a few people speak. Please, if you want to speak, you just use the mic, and then we would just unmute yourself, or you can raise up your hand so we don't have multiple people speaking at the same time. We have a large house, so I'm sure that people have maybe it's a lot to take in. Usually that's what insurance is. It's a lot to take in. Emeka, you want to speak? Hi, Emeka, are you there? Your mic is unmuted. I don't know if you want to speak. Okay, great. All right.
Someone in the chat asked for the website, so I've put the website address in the chat.
Oh, great. All right, great. So I see another question saying insurance can protect IP. That sounds like the first strange thing that everybody had on this call today.
Oh, really? Yes, it can.
But I don't think a lot of founders do it that way. The way we protect our IPs are legally. We just do a legal protection to it.
Legal protection, yes, you can. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's not part of the PlanB package because it's a specialized area of insurance. So it wouldn't fit in a one-size-fits-all insurance package.
It's by use, right?
Exactly. And it's technical and it's specialized. The idea of PlanB is like you said, it's a starter. We're trying to just encourage more people to get insurance. And so we've simplified it. At least get onto the ladder. And then once you're comfortable with being there, then we can now start exploring all these more, specialized areas of, of insurance. But just even get on the ladder, protect your health, protect yourself. If you have children, protect the fact that if your idea is taking time to develop. You're not able to raise that money as quickly as you want. You have to pay school fees. Get an insurance cover that can just help you during those times. Because a lot of founders, when children are hungry, you have things. A lot of founders quit and go back to paid employment just to be able to meet those needs.
Bambi,
And
you've hit a very strong nail on the head.
no, it's a fact. And so in order to, avoid such, because it takes time to raise money. Ayolabi, let's be honest, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to raise the money. And, it's almost as though they keep moving the goalposts each time, each year.
Each year you move somewhere, the moves is
they move. Do you understand? Just when you think, okay, I understand the game, I understand, they move it again. They move the goalpost again. At this time around, okay, we want this, we want that. I mean, grant process. My word, trying to get a grant. It's an exam, and it takes time. So, if we don't want our ideas to protect the basic, so that we can keep going, so that we can be resilient to economic change, to societal change, to political change, to environmental change. It helps. I have insurance, as you can imagine.
What's the cost of not being insured in Africa's volatile business climate?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's
because Bambi, let's be realistic, the infrastructure, the regulators, the market is constantly shifting. What's the cost of not being insured?
Someone asked me that actually. Actually, no, we're talking about trusts. Sorry, not insurance. And we were trying to say, what is the cost of lack of trust in the Nigerian society? That has anybody ever really fully dimensioned what it's costing us as
the nation,
the country? The fact that our trust quotient is less than zero. Because a lot of things that we could be doing as a startup community, we're unable to do because there's no trust.
That's why we built Umbrella.
Well, and that's why I also built my community, because the reality is that we're not meant to journey this business life alone.
Yeah.
There's power in community. There's power in the collective. We can share resources. We can share ideas. We can share, so on so many levels. And I can't preach it enough that community is the way to scale and grow businesses. There's no magic. There's no abracadabra. There's no one there's nothing. It is pulling together to make things work. And I think it is, and that was why we're even having the conversation, is that what is it costing startups and early stage businesses joining it alone because there's no trust? It's a huge, huge, huge problem that we're not really addressing. But what is the cost of not having insurance? It's going back to ground zero. That's it. It's going back to the starting point. You're running a race, and imagine you're running the hurdles. Let me put it out because hurdles is the one where they always trip over. And you're 110 meters hurdles race, and you trip on the third hurdle. And usually in athletics, you get up and you continue. No, that's if you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you go back to the starting point and you start again running that race. And you get as far as the fifth hurdle, you trip. You can't carry on. You have to go back to the starting point again. So that is the cost of not having insurance. You go back to ground zero each time. Depending on what the nature of the hit is, either on you personally or on the business.
Okay, Bambi, let's go a little bit technical, right? As founders, we spend a lot of time on our screen. We spend a lot of time, having mental issues, right? A lot of founders are having mental issues. Can you hear me?
I can, sorry.
Okay.
I'm just reading the message in the chat. I'm not understanding it, but maybe you'll understand it.
Of the message.
We've always needed women, those with a different narrative were of course.
Okay. It was when you spoke about the other room, the women in the other room. He was just trying to.
Oh,
we needed.
right. So
I get it now. I was going to speak around, founders' mental health. A lot of founders getting glasses every other day because we spend time on the screen. You're wearing one at the moment.
I am, yeah.
Spent 8 years on the screen,
Mine is from age, not from staring at the screen.
But how else, can we take, these things very serious? I know you've spoken about health insurance, but it just sounds like I'm amounting some money for the day I'll have health issues, right? Not necessarily addressing my current issues. I don't know if you get my question.
Well, I'll answer two answers. One is people should not look at paying their premium as amassing money somewhere that I may never use. And a lot of insurance companies are now actually offering, end of year bonuses. So if you don't make a claim throughout the year, they give you something back. And each insurance company, it varies what is given back, depending on the insurance company. Because insurance companies are also realizing that this is one of the
barriers.
Factors.
Yeah, barriers.
Yes, one of the factors that
limit adoptions.
But you see, you're not looking at it from the insurance companies there. Yes. So, but you see, from the insurance company, one claim can wipe out an insurance company, and it has done, like it did with the Lloyd's of London, when there was I think there was it was early 90s, and one of the ships or so sank, and it almost wiped out the Lloyd's of London back then. I remember in the news reading about people committing suicide because it was really a terrible time for the insurance industry. So one claim can wipe out. I mean, imagine Leadway is insuring the Dangote refineries. They're one of the insurers. So what you'll find is with a refinery like that, you can't have one insurance company bearing all that. So they spread the costs and they spread the risk. Now imagine that refinery. We all know how much the refinery costs to build. Imagine the claim if anything happens to that refinery. I don't know which smaller insurance companies also are part of that policy, but it could easily wipe out some insurance companies.
Isn't that the role of the reinsurance? Like, I know there's the reinsurance on
there's a reinsurance, exactly. So there's the reinsurance market as well. And I don't think there are any local, most of the reinsurance companies are all international.
Or
I
on
may be wrong. Yes, they're all, international because of the, like I said earlier, capital base as well, to be a reinsurance company. So I think they're all international. I may be wrong. There may be a local indigenous one, but all the ones I know are all international. So yes, it's there are risks all round. And as I said, to encourage insurers, insurance companies are giving end of year bonuses. So change your narrative. Don't look at it as we're just putting money away somewhere that we're never going to use. We are doing that. That's one. Two, mental health. This is actually something that recently I personally have felt that we need to address for founders. And I've come together with some colleagues, and we've come up with, we call it the Training Collective. And the unique thing about what we're offering on the Training Collective is a whole session on mental health. And in fact, you cannot go on to the rest of the training if you don't scale, if a founder doesn't scale the mental health. So it's like a 3-session workshop. The first session is on mental health. If as a founder, we feel you don't scale that session, you can't actually go on to now start learning about brand, innovation, finance management. No, you can't. We actually have to, and we've said it, you said it, I've said it, Ayala. If you're not well, your business, it's unlikely for your business to be well. If you're not physically well, if you're not emotionally well, if you're not mentally well, it's difficult for you to run a successful business. Now, of course, with everything, there are outliers. So when we talk, we're talking general percentages. What is most likely the case with a large, population size, not what's, so there's some individuals who have amazing coping strategies and, can keep soldiering on. But we're finding that there are lots of mental health challenges now with founders. And the primary reason is because founders feel alone. They're journeying alone. They have no one to share what they're going through,
the struggles
with, who understands their pain points. And that's why, and with you tech people, founders in particular, they're working alone. They're sitting in a room from morning till night. Sometimes they won't go out. They won't go into the sunshine. No vitamin D. No, and we're finding that a lot of mental health challenges amongst tech founders in particular. And this is not international, this is in Nigeria.
I think it also stems from, several, no's when you even try to fundraise as well. I've had conversations around, why don't you give me the reasons why you're not going ahead with my startup, right? For instance, rather than give me a generic feedback, because you're not helping me better why I'm not getting the funding or why I'm not getting into the accelerator or into incubator. And I hear most times that they have a lot of applications, so we can't spend time trying to give you unique feedback, which is fine,
yeah.
right? But a call with the founder can also, just change, the perspective. And that's what we try to also do at Umbrella. Just jump on a call with the founder and have that, one-on-one. You might even change your perspective around the startup beyond just looking at the pitch deck and saying, oh no, this startup doesn't work, So I think that a lot of conversations need to happen in the ecosystem. A lot of founders are struggling,
Definitely,
not
definitely.
because they don't have good startups. It's just that the mental balance is not yet there.
It's not there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, I had also mentioned to you that um, we can work with your founders in that aspect as well,
Yeah.
because it's very key.
I want us to come back on the Founders Collective that you
Mhm.
mentioned, but I see Kata's hands up. I want you to speak around the kind of partnerships that you've put together for that. I'll come back
Okay.
to that. Kata, you can just unmute yourself. I think we're struggling to hear her. I don't know if you just speak.
We can't hear you. The network.
Your network is really bad, Kata. Maybe we'll just take somebody else. Are there other questions in the house? Kata, you can try again though. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better now?
Great,
Oh,
great.
yes, much.
Okay, so I want to speak to two things. First of all, madam, when you were talking about your presentation, you highlighted religion as one of the things why people don't want to do. So let me come from the faith perspective of being a Muslim.
Okay.
Generally, insurance is not something that is actually being acceptable, except if it's regulatory or it's actually important. You do. And if you notice, for women in the northern part, whereby even some of them, they struggle to be an entrepreneur in the midst of, the gender biases, and they are also running their businesses. They have this mental issues of, I have to do this alone, sometimes not getting that support from the men. And I'm looking at, you mentioned that, yes, recently the insurance companies are now beginning to give bonuses. So I think where the Islamic insurance companies like the Takaful and the likes come in is telling them that, okay, even when you're putting your premium, there's something you get when the shareholders are getting something at the end of the year. And that looks like a little bit of a juice. So I feel if PlanB can actually look into other Islamic insurance companies that offers those Takaful, you addressing the women, most especially the women in the northern parts that are actually struggling. They are running very good businesses because I'm actually on different platforms and I see them from the northern part and all that stuff. And I feel like, okay, if we could actually get some of these women, they will be the advocates amongst the other women in their communities, in their group, and telling them that, oh, you need this insurance, first of all. First of all, as the woman that is running the business, your mental health is important. You need to be in shape. You need to secure your health. As you're growing, as your body is changing and everything like that, there's some ailments that comes with it. You need to be in a secure space that you know that, yes, your insurance company covers this whenever anything happens. Yes, sometimes life happens. Your husband may be gone. What happened to the education of the children? Oh, PlanB has something for us under the education part of it. So looking beyond all this tends to let them feel like, okay, yes, I know that, yes, I have a comfort zone. I have somewhere, I have an insurance company, I have I have PlanB. Let me put it that way. We have PlanB insurance to actually take care of that. So I think that's also another space we could look into, because I remember Mr. Ayola was saying that as a founder, you'll be looking at all these gaps and looking at how we can solve these gaps. So we've been able to identify different gaps and think, okay, we could solve this particular gap. The last question I'm going to now have is towards goods in transit. So being in the consumer goods space, I have my goods in sent.
Goods in transit insurance, yes.
Yes, ma'am. So that part of it, does insurance covers it, or it's another thing entirely?
So there is goods in transit insurance, but it's not part of PlanB, of course, because it's a specialized insurance coverage. It does exist, but it is expensive. Or should I say it is on the expensive side. And when I say expensive, it's
subjective as well.
Exactly, subjective. but it's more expensive than, our policies, for example. But goods in transit insurance is available. Not all insurance companies do them. So you have to ideally go with the broker, and the broker will find you the best rate. It would be my suggestion. But yes, it does exist.
Okay. I want to ask a question for those not necessarily building things that are tech-led, right? If I want a creative economy, for instance, right? And I was doing things around the creative. What insurance? Because again, beyond my gadgets, beyond all the other things that I'm insuring, right? How should I think insurance as a creative? Because all founders are creatives, right? But how do I think insurance as a creative?
Creative as in content creative.
Yeah, maybe let's do that.
As in music, film.
Yes, all that.
All of that.
Animation, all that creative.
So all that is intellectual property.
Okay.
Yeah. Beyond the coverage of yourself as a person, which is health, life, all those things. Then you have your work, your creative work, which is intellectual property. You can insure that. Or, as you've all said, you can have legal documents that protect you from that. And there's recourse if they break some of these terms and conditions of the agreements. But yes, it's the intellectual property that you would insure.
All right. Let's have your parting words. I know time is fast spent, and this is 12 already. Usually,
wow,
sessions usually go as far as 1, and this
my word,
is like the second shortest sessions that we've had, and
okay.
It sounds
well.
very.
I hope that's good, because I've
That's
explained everything so well that nobody has any questions.
maybe we should just give like another few minutes if there are other questions. Let me not be in a hurry to round it up, right? Are there other questions from the audience that we would like to ask? Oh, okay, Ayo, you can go quickly.
All right, thank you very much, Ayala, and thank you for the session, Ms. Babi. My question is about insurance for hardware. We have a decentralized hardware system where we have hardware with staff, but that's not the main thing we want to ensure. We want to ensure the hardware we deploy at various locations across the country. When we spoke with insurers, they were like, we don't exactly have something for that. Would you do homeowners insurance? And considering that it's different locations, there are different things that could happen to different pieces of hardware at different locations. One place could burn down, and it doesn't affect the entire batch that we procured simultaneously. So, how would you advise that we structure that insurance for our entire fleet?
Wow.
Sorry, Bambi, I just need to ask Ayo a few questions before you go into it. Ayo, can you paint a picture of what the hardware looks like, basically?
Okay. So we provide Wi-Fi internet in decentralized places that are not currently served by major telco, and places like hotels, hostels, where multiple people come together. So in those places, we have solar units, we have antennas, we have routers, access points, wires running around the premises, and we deploy that across. We currently deploy across about 5, 10, and we are aiming to go to thousands. So, and each has different requirements, different conditions in different environments.
Okay. Thanks, Ayo.
Thank you for that clarity. That's falls under complex insurance. But I would still, rather than going to an insurance company directly, because insurance companies don't like to deal with individual situations. So they will push back to say, this is what we have. You have to fit into what we have.
Mm.
That is where a broker comes in. People don't really know of the role the broker plays in the insurance market. And it's a very important role because brokers are the ones who get the insurance companies to do things. Let me just put it in that, capture it that way. So, what you actually need to do is to go to a broker. Tell a broker everything what you've just said, and the broker will find you the right insurance company that will insure exactly what you want, how you want it. That's the role of an insurance broker. And there are several of them. And I can, I can mention, a few, but you need to go to, once you start getting specialized, if you start requiring specialized insurance, my advice and recommendation is go to an insurance broker. So in your case, you need an insurance broker. And an insurance broker is key because they will get you the best price on the market. They're not loyal to anybody. And they will get insurance companies to modify products so that, to suit whatever it is that you need. Mm. That's their role. Mm. So I hope that helps. That would be the approach I would
Thank
take.
you for that.
Yes. And if you want, insurance brokers, I'm not pitching for any. I can share some with Ayola and you can get the list from him. Or you can just Google insurance brokers in Nigeria and just go with them. They're all insurance brokers are registered by NICOM. NICOM is the regulatory body that oversees the insurance market. All insurance brokers are regulated by them. So you know that you're dealing with people who are regulated.
All right. Thank you, Bambi. Are there any other questions? It's good to see some people back on this call. Lawrence, Ebuka, Emeka, Catherine, good to see you on this call again. Esther, Ahmad, it's good to see you on this call again. For those who have joined Umbrella Saturdays, it's good to always see you on these calls. Bambi, let's have, I don't know if there are other questions before I ask you for your parting words. And I'm going to do it in two ways. 5 risks to avoid, 5 things to do to build resilience.
Well, I don't really know that. 5 risks to avoid.
As a founder, 5 risks to avoid when it comes to insurance.
As in just when it comes to insurance, or just generally.
What you can do, anyhow, you got them feelings takes you.
5 things to avoid as a founder. Oh wow, what would I say? The 5 things to avoid. Find a community. Is that to avoid? No, that's a positive.
Yeah.
Sorry. Don't do it alone. Is avoid. Okay? That would be my number 1. Don't do it alone. And the reason I can work with anyone. And the reason I say that is because when I start any relationship, I say to myself, I'm not fighting with this person. I will not fight over money. Money is usually the one thing that causes is the root of all evil. Well, the love of it is the root of all evil. It's the one that causes the most problems in relationships and partnerships and collaborations. And I always say right from the onset to myself, no matter what happens, I will not fight with this person. If the person fights with me, well, but I will not fight with them. And that works because on Plan B, I have a partner. And, her name is Iona Trammell. She's also from the financial sector. She's also very passionate about, gender equity and gender biases and ensuring financial inclusion for for women. And the relationship works because, as I've said, I can't do it alone. Neither of us could do it alone, but together we've gotten much further. We've been able, when we joined forces, within a year, we were able to bring Plan B to the market. When we were journeying alone, we weren't getting anywhere. But when we joined forces, within, 2 years really, it took leadway about a year but within 2 years, we brought Plan B to the market. Now we're marketing it. Now we have something. NICOM is giving us approval for it. We have a product that we're able to sell. So my number one is don't journey alone. Number two, have a mentor. It's all part of the same thing, but it's different. Have a mentor, somebody you are accountable to. And you have to be very apply wisdom in who you select to be your mentor. You don't want a mentor who hasn't achieved anything. You don't want a mentor who hasn't, in some way or other, walked your walk and come out the other side. Someone who is almost like a gatekeeper to where you're going and where you want to be. I'm saying positives instead of negatives.
Well, it's fine. As the spirit leads, I think we will get it.
Oh my, yes, I think at the end, you just split it up yourselves into what you must have and what you shouldn't have. So yes, don't go it alone. Don't go it without a cover. I think that's the second one. Have a mentor. And the mentor also is accountability as well. The third thing that I would say is don't go it without knowledge. Knowledge of your sector and knowledge of running a business. Number 4 would be know your limitations. Be very self-aware and know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and bring on board people to complement you, who will cover your, we have, what do we call it? You have your positives and your negatives. We don't call them negatives in psychology. They call them your downsides. So someone who will cover your downsides. It doesn't have to be a partnership. If you don't, doesn't have to be a partnership in terms of, you're jointly owning the entity together. No, but somebody, you need to have resource that will cover your downside. That's 4. I think, where am I? 5th, maybe? 5. I've lost count. This is the 5th one. Yes. Okay.
You can add a plus to it. It's fine.
Okay. My 5th would be, as a founder, what have I What have I learned? What would be my fifth advice?
Would you want to speak about the gatekeepers?
Put the structures in place from the beginning. Put systems in place from the beginning. I know it's tough to say that now, but you will reap the benefits later. And not only because, so this is really my area of, in my advisory anyway. It's not only because I'm, sort of promoting insurance, but I'm a great believer in putting structures and systems in place early on, as you start. Have processes in place, no matter how informal. I mean, I run a market. My staff are selling vegetables at the market. Simple things like at the end of the day, two people must count the cash that is collected. And the cash is banked first thing on a Monday morning. Simple. It's not complicated. But it's a process. And everybody knows that that is the process. So that if anything, they checks and balances. Very simple, doesn't have to be complicated, but you need systems and processes. It all forms part of being resilient, and it actually enables you to be flexible so that you can then adapt to changes, economic changes, or whatever. So that's what I would say. Notice I haven't said anything about money. People always think they need money, but there's so many things you can do on your own that don't require money. And interestingly enough, as I mentioned, we've started this training collective, and we ran the first workshop last month. And we ran a questionnaire, feedback questionnaire at the end. And what was interesting was the 95% of the participants. Well, one of the questions we asked, do you need money? Do you need? When there was a questionnaire before they joined, and they were all saying, oh, we need money, we need money, we need money. After the workshop, they had to complete a questionnaire again. This time around, 95% of them said they didn't need money. They actually needed the education, the awareness, the information, everything else. They realized that money was not their problem. Structure, systems, processes was their problem. They had no data. How do you know if you're doing well when you have no data? How will you collect data if you don't have structure, systems, and processes in place? How will you measure your metrics? So I've mumbled everything together, but I hope. So for every negative, I said there's a positive, and for every positive, there's a negative. So take that as my 5 positives and 5 negatives. I've cheated. Sorry.
That's great. So I know I asked you earlier to speak around the partnerships for the founder collective. I know Umbrella is a part of that process.
Yeah,
but I wanted to just speak to the founders around it, and so that you can open their minds to the potentials that exist, especially when partnerships are broken.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing with the training collective is that we're putting together resources with different strengths. I've said to you, community and collaborations are my key things. And that's why the platform is actually called the Training Collective. One of like I said earlier, we've identified that founders are having challenges that are not necessarily because of the business. It's more sort of a mental health challenge. And nobody seems to be addressing this. Everyone is running entrepreneurship programs. Great. But you see, you can teach entrepreneurship programs from now till kingdom come, and we're not seeing impact. So one of the statistics I always quote, we ran a research with EDC, part of the Lagos Business School, and they run the most expensive entrepreneurship programs in the country. I think it's now 750,000 naira for their program. And at the end of it, one of the key questions we wanted to find out is, after this program, how many of you are using what you've learned in your business? Well, to be fair, let me not say all. Let me be very honest. It was women. So we asked the women who participated in this, how many of you are using what you learned? Less than 2% of them. So this made us realize that there's a gap in people have the knowledge, but for some reason, they're not applying the knowledge in their businesses. So the Training Collective is trying to address that gap by providing a hand-holding methodology to supporting founders, a holistic approach that addresses not only their mental health, their personal being, but also their business well-being. So it's your personal well-being and your business well-being. So, we're calling ourselves the business doctors, so to speak. And we are working with platforms such as Umbrella, who are, who have a community of founders, so that we can work with them to better support founders. So we're working with Umbrella. There's another platform called TerraWork, where we're working with TerraWork as well. And then we're working with Impact Hub, places where founders congregate to see how we can help founders in their personal well-being as well as their business well-being. So we will teach you the business skills, as I've said, putting structures, systems, and processes in place in your business. But then at the same time, we'll also check your personal well-being. And we hope that, some of you on the call and maybe more people from the Umbrella community will join. We're going to run a pilot specially for you. We'll send out questionnaires so that we have a better understanding of what your needs are, because our program is curated. With this sort of thing, you can't have a one-size-fits-all. So we're going to curate a workshop specifically for the Umbrella community. So we'll share, a questionnaire with you, and then based on that, we will run a pilot for you to see, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. Basically, we want you to see the value that we have, so that you can then judge by yourselves whether it's value or not. Oh. So that's what we're hoping, and I think Ayola, we said sometime in July. Is when we want to run the pilot. Yeah. So yes, so you'll be seeing the information soon on your platform.
All right, thank you very much, Babi. I would just like to say that it's been a very impactful sessions. As founders, growth is sexy, but are you building for resilience is the question, and then I know that a lot of us think about insurance very late. With this call, we know that insurance is as important as the very first things that we should do. It comes across like every time everyone says to us as founders that everything is important. You should think about it the first time. The lawyers came on the call, or the legal guys came on the call. The first thing they told us was, legal is important. Now we're hearing insurance. Insurance is also telling us that's the first thing you should think of. Otherwise, you go back to ground zero. You know, it seems like everybody wants us to think about every aspect from the onset. You know, my parting word would be that, you know, there are a lot of risks out there. As founders, we should protect ourselves. We should get insured, get your business insured, get your life insured, get your, you know, everything about you insured. And PlanB makes this affordable for us all. So whether you're bootstrapping, whether you're venture backed, whether you are at the idea stage, you know, these conversations that we've had today just helps us build smarter, safer, and stronger startup ecosystem. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been an amazing session. I've learned a lot. I'm rethinking insurance. I thought insurance was just for myself, you know, but I'm rethinking insurance now with what Babi has said. It's been a great session.
Thank you. And you can buy for your staff.
Yes, yes. All right. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next week. Next week will be very interesting. We have someone coming from the venture space. He's someone I also respect. He speaks a lot around grants, around, you know, fundraising. He's been in a couple of investors' conversation. He's coming to speak about something I find very, very interesting as well. You know, for me, the topic is just beyond the usual, right? It's something that I want every founder to take serious, especially when it comes to you know, fundraising. He'll be sharing his own perspective around how to raise funds, which is very important, and you know, how to scale the business. It's no bullshit. Like we always say, on every call that we have an umbrella, it's no bullshit. It's just basically taking your ideas from ideas to investment and to impact. A lot of investors are looking for impact. Some of the things that you've heard Bambi say on this call as well is about impact, driving impact. She's identified, I can say 10 different gaps that if you are just an idea state founder, you're trying to build your early stage, there are gaps that, you know, she's been able to identify that I think that you can focus on. And if you build for just solving just one aspect of some of the things that she said on this call, I'm sure that you'll be able to scale your business forward. Thank you once again. We will be having Abbas Ibekwe. He runs Tech Field, come to take us on from ideas to impacts, where he will tell us how to scale our ideas and how to, you know, raise investments, whether grants, whether VC funds, whether from institutional investors, and then how to ensure that we're building for impact. Thank you and have a great day ahead.